Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us here for this webinar concerning Scytec DataXchange machine monitoring. So for those of you that were here last month, this is going to be part two of a two-part series concerning basically a startup guide for your machine monitoring journey with Scytec DataXchange. And some of the things that we did cover last month, I will go over and kind of briefly gloss over again, and I'll also be talking about some things that we didn't get time for last month as well. So if you're new to both machine monitoring and smart factory technology, I do advocate that you go and look up our previous webinar, which you can find on our YouTube page, and I'll show you some more of that stuff later. But getting started right off the bat here, I would kind of like to discuss what we talked about last month. And last month's webinar is going to be a lot longer than this morning's is. We're going to be kind of finishing things up at what we would normally kind of go over with a demonstration, which we do also advocate that you reach out to here at the end of this webinar and get a personalized demonstration of what Scytec DataXchange can do, where we'll go over basically what you guys have equipment-wise, how we can connect to that and pull a rich set of data off, and then how those go and populate manufacturing charts and dashboards that can be helped to kind of tackle some issues that you guys have out on your shop floor. So last month we talked about areas of improvement and how you can define them, and then how Scytec DataXchange machine monitoring can help out with those, as well as what kind of success that our clients have achieved that you can find in our case studies, which you can find on our website. We also talked about how DataXchange connects to your shop floor equipment and pulls information off those in a variety of different ways, either via Ethernet ports or our PLC device that we can use to get information off of different sensors, cobots, as well as legacy machinery. We also went over the different DataXchange applications, including Data Display, which I will show you a demonstration of here later on. Data Display is our browser-based reporting tool, as well as the ODI Operator Data Interface, which is a supplemental application that you can find on our silver and gold licensing levels. I'm going to go a little bit into that as well today. We also talked about the first charts and dashboards to use after you get set up and you're starting to collect information off your machines, what those look like, how they work. We also talked about the notification feature set inside of Scytec DataXchange and how you can get up to the moment alerts about a certain threshold that is crossed with your machine. So for example, the one that I like detailing in these webinars is, let's say for you had a machine that had been in an unknown downtime for 29 minutes. At that 30-minute mark, you will receive a notification in either Microsoft Teams, text, or email alerting you to go out and attend to that machine. Finally, we also talked about the DataXchange resources and where you can find more information once you become a client for Scytec DataXchange in terms of our Scytec University. I'm going to show you that here as well at the end of this webinar. And then also, as I mentioned, and I will be doing one of these as well here today, we will be doing a demonstration of our browser-based reporting tool, Data Display. Now, what we are going to be discussing for this webinar is I'm going to be showing you some other charts and dashboards that you may not have seen last time. Also, we are going to be covering some more areas that DataXchange helps improve out on your guys' shop floor. We'll also be going over the report function for DataXchange, how you're able to view DataXchange, and what we kind of advocate for here at Scytec with getting things set up on your shop floor. I'm also going to talk about our DataXchange updates. DataXchange sees an update about once a quarter. I will be going into kind of how we do that and where you can find out more about that kind of stuff, as well as our ROI and pricing calculator, where you can find, when you will get a return on investment, depending on the amount of machines that you have and your license level, some other things like that. And then finally, I will be doing a data display demonstration with some of the other charts and dashboards that I did not cover last month. So the first thing that I'm going to be discussing this webinar is other areas of improvement with Scytec DataXchange that I did not cover last time. And last month I covered is how you can reduce machine downtime with Scytec DataXchange, how you can do some things like some part count tracking and the real-time and historical reporting for your shop floor equipment with machine monitoring. Now, some of the other areas that DataXchange can help your shop floor out with is reducing waste and rework. You can also do some tracking of ideal part and setup times where you can take a Excel document, have that uploaded into DataXchange for what you were looking for, ideally in terms of how you should be setting up things out on a machine, and then that comparing to what is actually then reported to make sure that you get the most accurate OEE information available. Now, last month, I also talked about the ODI tablet and what that can do to basically improve your shop floor performance. So what you are gathering from a machine automatically is not going to tell you every single thing. You will have to have your operators kind of elicit some information that could be, extraneous to what is going on inside of the machine. So like, a operator goes for a lunch break or a bathroom break or something like that, or a carbide broke or something like that. They can go and enter that information into the ODI tablet, and that can also make sure that your OEE information is not skewed. You're getting the most accurate information possible. And that is what takes Scytec DataXchange from being a machine monitoring platform to also then being a communication tool where you can have the most accurate information coming out of your shop floor operators. And I went over this a little bit as well last month. DataXchange is going to be moving forward, having a new tool that for right now we are calling DCI. And that DCI tool down the line is going to be seeing some better predictive maintenance and predictive part times runs. And that's going to be some of the other areas that DataXchange improves upon out on your shop floor. Now, I'm going to be discussing some of the charts and dashboards. Last month, we went over the timeline chart, the equipment status summary, as well as the downtime Pareto chart. What you're looking at here in these images, and I'm going to be showing you a demonstration of them, is our DataXchange OEE summary, our alarm Pareto, as well as our target utilization. And you can see the OEE one there in that top right corner. Underneath that, we have our target utilization chart. And then next to that, we have our alarm Pareto chart. If you're unfamiliar with what a Pareto chart is, going from left to right, you can see the biggest issues that are currently affecting your shop floor. And once you eliminate those heavy hitters that should, based off the Pareto rule, eliminate close to 80% of the other issues going on. Next up, I'm going to discuss the reports, and I'll show you this little function here as well in my data display demonstration. But the way that we can pull information off and have those populate into a chart, we can also have that information be exported into a Excel document. So what you're looking at right here is a exported equipment status summary report, which you can see that, all the different cycles that a Makino machine has been in within a given time frame, as well as how long they were been in there. And I went over this last month, but everything inside of Scytec DataXchange is 100% user defined. So whatever you were looking at in terms of charts and dashboard is something that you demanded to see, and that everything in Scytec DataXchange is also rule-based. So when you're looking for a specific threshold that, once that gets crossed, to get notified of something like that, you define those rules. We will help you out along the way to make sure that everything works properly and how you want it to. But everything inside of Scytec DataXchange is 100% user-defined and also rule-based by your own needs. Now, last month, we talked about the real-time equipment view, which is one of our main real-time dashboards. And you're looking at right now the equipment view, which you can see 3 different kinds of machines. We have a Citizen, a welder, and a Makino. At the top, that little gauge that you see there, that is the utilization gauge, and that little blue triangle that you see is a determined utilization by a user for, we want to see that Citizen over there in that left corner. We want to see that utilization at 70%, but in reality, what it is actually is about at 55%. And then underneath that, you can see some of the other machine statuses that you demand, such as knowing the specific equipment status that the citizen machine has been in an unknown downtime. It has been in that unknown downtime for 22 minutes, which you can see there with the specific duration number, its utilization percentage, and also how many good parts. And this is nothing standard. Everything that you see in these little equipment cards here is 100% user defined. Now, this month, we are going to be going over basically a streamlined version of the real-time equipment view, which is a real-time list. Now, this image that you see here in the center is the real-time list, and the real-time list is a more streamlined version of the equipment view with the ability to filter by specific cycle times, unplanned and planned downtimes, and specific data set columns. So you can see here we have a long list of machines, a Fanuc 31i, a Siemens 840D, a DMG, and some other things like that, as well as their accompanying current machine status. We have one that's in normal cycle, a high override, unknown downtime, as well as an excess setup. And then over there on that far side, you can see the amount of time that it has been in there. Now, I want you to pay attention to this image there on the right, where it being on the phone. This is kind of how we advocate viewing the real-time list due to its streamlined nature, as well as the less graphical stuff that you saw on the previous equipment view. So as I already mentioned, you can cycle by, or you can filter specific cycle times, unplanned and planned downtimes. But you can also see some other interesting things that would be beneficial to track out on your shop floor, including parts per hour, scrap notes, ideal setup times, program numbers, start times, previous downtime, feed rate overrides, and more. And we at Scytec definitely advocate that you filter these statuses that are important to your role. Next up, I'm going to be discussing the DataXchange viewing options for what I just discussed. So with the real-time equipment view, at Scytec, we definitely ask that you guys have that out on a TV next to a machine out on your shop floor. And it's really just due to the graphical size of this. And I'll show you some of our client images on how they do this kind of stuff. But for the equipment view, due to its graphical size, we do recommend that you view it on a television or a computer, and it's really just due to the amount of information that is displayed graphically. Now, as I just showed you the equipment list, the streamlined nature of that, it makes it very easy for a phone where you can see more things. And this is going to be something more for like a manager or a supervisor inside of a cell, like in that first image next to that Haas machine. You're going to have less machines, but show more information graphically. And that's just because operators are only ever going to be working on anywhere from 3 to 5 machines inside of a cell. With that real-time list, you could be off-site somewhere, you could be a manager, and you can just scroll through all of the machines inside of a plant and see everything that is going on from a high-level view very easily. Now, these are all some images that we have taken from either case studies or that a client has supplied us with, and how we, like I said, advocate for showing the real-time dashboards out on your shop floor. So if you look at that image there in the center, you can see a bunch of arrows pointing to TVs hanging from a ceiling. Those are going to be TVs for the real-time equipment view that are inside of different cells. And you can see that there's different things being shown on different TVs, and that's just because that's a different cell operating with different machinery, and they're just not in charge of those. So they can look up, see that TV hung from the ceiling, and notice what's going on at the other machines that they may not be standing right by. I mean, you work at a shop floor, these can be miles long sometimes, very, very spread out. You can't just be around everything all the time. So that's where this viewing options come in, and how we actually view our browser-based reporting tool on these TVs is what you're looking at right here, which is a mini PC. These are very affordable. You are not beholden to this brand, but we really like these Melee mini PCs, which you can find them on Amazon for under $200. We like getting the 8 GB model because of the size that Windows takes up. It's about 4. You can also get a 4 GB one, but that'll run a lot slower than the 8 GB one. And we also like getting the fanless ones as well. And the reason why we ask that our clients get the fanless ones to plug into an HDMI port on a TV to run all this stuff. If you saw us at IMTS, this is how we did everything this year, where behind the TVs that we are running DataXchange off of, one of these was plugged in. But going back to why we, ask for fanless models is that, you've walked through your shop floor. There's all sorts of kind of crud just floating around in the atmosphere, from particles to maybe some, coolant debris or something like that. A fan model of a mini PC is prone to getting clogged up with some of that stuff that is just out there floating around. So we like suggesting getting the fanless model. Now, last month I also talked about ODI and did so a little bit this month. Now, how you would have ODI set up next to a machine is what you're looking at here with that image on the left, which you can see more clearly, as well as the image over there on the right next to what I think is an Akuma machine. What you're looking at is the ODI equipment overlay mode, where you can see a high-level view, once again, of all of the things that you deem necessary for your operator inside of a cell to be aware of, including the machine name, which you can see in the top left corner of each one of those little squares in that grid, their current machine status, the duration of that status, the logged-in user, so whoever is the operator working inside that cell, what work order they are currently on, the amount of good parts, scrap parts, how that fits into their parts per hour plan, and then if they are hitting those part per hour percentages. Now, what you see on the outside of this tablet here, which you can see in that right image on the right, we advocate for these things called Vita boxes, which are an enclosure, as well as floor stands that you can see. And this is what, you can have next to a machine. Or if you look at that 3D image of the DMG Mori model up in the top left corner, we have clients that mount these ODI tablets to the machine via magnets. And if you look at that image there in the center, that is the actual data entry screen for the ODI tablet, where you can put in things like the amount of good and scrap part counts, as well as the other information, like, you had a machine that was currently running, you put it in an M1 or an M0 for a pause while they went out on a break or something like that. That is where you do all the data entry. And then the image that you see over there on the right next to the HOS, that is the equipment overlay. That is kind of what should be the logged in screen for when you go and start up your ODI tablet. But we do, to protect your ODI, we advocate for having a enclosed Vita box mount, which you can find at vitabox.com. And then in that bottom left-hand corner, you can see a floor stand, which is what the enclosures will then mount to. And they're very, very sturdy, and they weigh a lot so that they won't get knocked over or anything like that. And your operator can do all of the inputs on some of the other shop floor operator feedback related things that you can do with the ODI. Next, I'm going to talk about where you can find and get all the applications. And I kind of went over this a little bit last month. So we have a main hub that you can go to at dx.scytec.com, where you can find a link to your browser-based reporting tool, data display, as well as the client install for the desktop application. And then also the mobile reporting applications for data display, as well as the operator data interface as well. You can also find these on the Apple iOS store, as well as the Google Play Store. Over there on the left, we have the listings for the ODI and the DataXchange reporting data display tool in the Apple iOS store, as well as the listings on the Google Play Store. And ODI also has a Windows desktop application. So you're not beholden to putting this on a tablet as well. You also can have the ODI on a Windows desktop as well that can only be found on the Windows store. Finally, I'm going to discuss the ROI and pricing for DataXchange before going into my demonstration. But one thing that kind of separates Scytec from some of our other competitors is that we are very transparent as well as affordable with our pricing. And I'm going to walk you through how you can play around with some of this stuff. But on our main Scytec.com website, you can find the ability to see what a 2-year term costs per machine, a 1-year term, as well as month to month, as well as licensing levels. I'm going to show you all that here in just a second. Now, one of the other things that's very nice about Scytec DataXchange is that we regularly do updates about once a quarter. We should be having one coming out here either at the end of the month or by the end of November. I am also going to be doing a webinar at the end of November discussing all of the updates and the new features that were provided by Scytec DataXchange over this last year. We do this every year. It's the last webinar that we do. But there's multiple different ways that we let our client base know that we are, pushing out an update. So if you go to Scytec.com, that image down there in the bottom left, you'll see a green bar that has a kind of crudely drawn circle around it, where you can click on that link there at the top. It'll tell you some more about when you can expect it, as well as what all is entailed in a blog style post. I also send out emails, and you can find a full list of all of the updated features on our Scytec University website, which I will be showing you at the end of this. So from here, I'm going to be doing a data display walkthrough with everything that I kind of just discussed that was not previously discussed last time. So I'm going to go stop sharing my screen for just a second. We're going to come into the data display launchpad. And as I said earlier, you can access this via the dx.scytec.com landing page, where you can come down here and see data display. This also is a link on the main Scytec.com website. So we're all logged in with our account credentials, and the first chart that I discussed earlier that we did not go over last month is going to be the alarm Pareto chart. So I'm going to come up here to our chart section. I'm going to click on alarm Pareto. Now, let's say I want to get a bird's eye view of all the alarms that happened the previous day. We can come up here and do our quick select, and there's all sorts of different time frames for today, yesterday, last week, last month, last quarter, etc. You can also have things filtered by the different shift groups. So maybe you have like a night shift, a morning shift, that kind of stuff, or spread things out via different plants if they're at different locations. So I have yesterday selected, and you can also do customized time filtering here as well. But this will show me everything that happened from yesterday morning at midnight to this morning, where it stopped at midnight as well. We can do some filter grouping as well for different equipment types. So I have some specific equipment from our Fort Collins plant that has been selected from this available list of equipment over here. So we have a Colorado Springs plant, a Fort Collins plant, as well as a Denver plant that has different machinery. So I have those selected, and from here, I'm going to populate this chart with this little kind of bar icon up here in the top right corner. Now, this is going to show me all of the different alarms that happened in that previous time frame, and due to the amount of occurrences over those alarms and how long they transpired, you can see from left to right the biggest hitters. So from over here, we had and we have these split up based off of their alarm code. So the number one issue in terms of alarms that our shop floor is experiencing is a alarm code 1134, which is a high pressure alarm. We had 8 occurrences of this yesterday, and it took up about 61% of our total alarms altogether. Next to that, we have a alarm code 160, which is a mismatch waiting for M code. It took up about 47 minutes of the total time yesterday. There was 3 different occurrences of this, and it was close to 30% of the total alarms. And then as you go down the list, you can see less and less of what are the other alarms and how much of them transpired and how much that affects the total available time to not be having alarms. Next, I'm going to go over a utilization chart. And once again, we do the same kind of filtering where we can select the time frame, the days, and the machines we're looking to get information off of. Now, what separates this, and I'm going to go and kind of talk about this here a little bit more, is, as I mentioned earlier, everything in Scytec DataXchange is 100% user-defined. So with our utilization chart, you can decide what is actually going to be on target for your utilization, what color that is, what is off and below target as well, and define those percentages then as well. So I'm going to populate this chart here. And we can see these are our three pieces of equipment. We have a Makino, a Mazak, as well as a programming logic controller. Now, these little blue balls, as you see here, this is what you actually set your target to. So if you look over there in that right-hand side, you can see the delineation for on target, off target, and the target that was mandated and by yourself. So we had everything set at 75%. So of the available time that there is in all of your shifts combined, 75% of the time we determined that we wanted to have those machines running or in cycle. So with this Mazak over here on the left-hand side, the total running percentage of that machine yesterday was 93%. So you can see a breakdown of the hours, minutes, and seconds of that. So we said that we set this at 75%. This machine was performing at 93%. So it is over what we dictated and demanded to be our utilization. Next to that, we have our PLC, which I showed you, that is off target. This is at currently 54% when we had that set at 75%. And then finally, we have our Makino, which is just a little bit over what we demanded to see as our utilization percentage at 75. It was performing yesterday at 84% of the available time in cycle. So that's just one little bit of the overall equipment effectiveness. So what I'd like to show you next is the entire outlook on your OEE, which we can get here with the equipment OEE summary. And like I said, these are things that I did not discuss last month. Now, as you may be familiar with the OEE, calculation, that is availability by performance, then by quality. So you can select all three of these as well as the target utilization that I just talked about to give you the best idea down here for your filtering for this chart. So I'd like to show you that here as well. And these are going to break all four of these down into their own bars. So you can see here with our Mazak, we set the target to 95%. The total availability that it performed at yesterday was 96. The same thing with the performance. We had our target set to 90. The percentage of its performance was actually about 26%. Quality, same thing. Target is set at 95%. And the actual percentage was at 100. So it went, as best as it could for the quality. And then this will then make up your entire OEE average here, where the target, we set this for our total OEE to be at 81%, but it's only performing at 25% with those other three that go into that overall equipment effectiveness calculation. And we have our other machinery here as well, including the programming logic controller as well as the Makino. So that sums it up for the different charts that I was going to be showing you. Next, I want to do the Excel export. So all of the charts that you see up here, you can get a numerical representation in the form of an Excel export here as well in our data display browser reporting tool. So I want to do an equipment status summary export, same different filtering options that we went over with the Fort Collins plant and the same three machines. Now, I went over the equipment status summary last month, that chart, but it basically is a summary of all the different equipment statuses that you could have in that given time frame. So once again, we are looking at what all transpired the previous day so that we could go into a Gemba walk or a production meeting first thing in the morning, well informed about everything that happened previously. So if I go here and click this icon here in the top right, you will see a download there. It'll come up here and populate inside this little download thing in my Chrome browser. And this is just a numerical breakdown of every single status that you can have in a given time frame. It's not as pleasant to look at as, say, our charts and dashboards, but maybe you guys have some people that are out on your shop floor that are a little bit more numbers based or something like that. But these are good for audit trails and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, every single chart that you can see up here, as well as different ones, can be exported into our Excel export option. Now, finally, last month, I went over the equipment view inside of our 2 different real-time dashboard offerings here as well. And I also went over to our RTV offerings last month as well. But what I didn't cover last month was the real-time list that I discussed here earlier. This is a very streamlined version of your real-time equipment view where you can select all the specific cycle times, unplanned downtime statuses, specific planned downtimes, as well as all the other different columns for the information that you are looking to get reports for, including things like the equipment status, the parts per hour percentage, good part counts, if your equipment is actually connected to the DataXchange server so that we can actually see the reports and everything. There's just a whole plethora of information here that you can select that can then go into this this dashboard that you will see here. And as I said, this is something that looks really good on a phone or a tablet where you can kind of scroll through everything. So for right now, the shop floor that we have, everything looks really good except for our DMG machine. That has been in an unplanned downtime. And the specific reason is that there is no material. It has been in this downtime for 15 minutes. And we can see that who the logged in user for that specific cell. So, we can go out there and, see what is going on with that, as well as the amount of parts that have been produced as well during this shift. So, that about covers it for the data display demonstration side of things. What I want to do here finally is I want to go into our Scytec.com website. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that separates DataXchange from other machine monitoring platforms is that we are very transparent with a lot of our pricing. So the first thing I'd like to kind of show you is how we can compare the different licensing levels. And I kind of glossed over this a little bit last month, but I didn't actually get to show you guys this. So you can compare what is offered based off of different feature levels. We have bronze, and that's just basically getting started off with machine monitoring where you can collect different cycle statuses. And then from there, you can go up the line to see things like silver, which incorporates the ODI tablet application, and then finally gold, which will show you things like OEE and good and scrap part counts as well. Now, for our pricing, I'd definitely advocate that you guys go out and play around with this. So we have different term available options for each piece of equipment. There's no minimum order as well. So maybe other machine monitoring companies might, ask for a minimum of 10 machines. You can get started up with 1, 2, doesn't matter here at Scytec. So you can go and play around with these. So right now we have a 2-year term selected. And then as you go all the way down to month, that does increase just a little bit. But the way that we look at month-to-month pricing for our DataXchange machine monitoring platform is that we look at it like we have to earn your business every month and do a good job of things. So at the bottom here, you can see other things in terms of our volume discount table. So if you have more than 10 machines, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc., you will get a different discount of your total monthly bill for DataXchange. Now, last month, I also did go over our integration with CG Tech Farragut. We have the pricing available for that as well. So if you guys are, looking to utilize some digital twin technology, definitely check out our webinar from last month, as well as the CG Tech webinar that we did this last August, where we go over everything. But down here at the bottom, we have our cloud pricing calculator, as well as the ROI calculator here as well. So let's just say